Let's say like you're in '97 with graffiti artist dude running around, and I believe Chris is KRS One, if I understood correctly.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the Temple of something is going on Sundays. Yes. And then what happens a bit after that? What's like then you run into end of the week a couple years later, and you go to the first end of the week, and I don't know if there's anything in
At the
between
same
those.
time, I started my own company with a partner called Milk and Honey Entertainment. I was in college, and he and I were friends. And one day we had dinner, and he was like, "What do you want to do?" And it was the first time in my life anybody asked me that. Nobody had ever. People have always been like, "This is what I want to do." How, like, do you want to get down? And I had no problem with that. I think that I still hadn't found that strength to think I could create something myself. So here comes along this person, and he asked me. I was like, I just want to do live shows. Like, that's my dream in life. I used to go to Madison Square Garden as a kid to this yearly concert called Salsa Festival, excuse me, that La Mega throws. And year after year, I mean, it's a 3 hour concert with maybe 13 to 15 headlining acts. I mean, I saw Tito Puente, Celia Cruz, Grupo Nietzsche, the best, Mark
Those are
Anthony.
huge. Those are all huge. Like before
I know
there
who
was a
Mark
Mark
Anthony
Anthony,
is.
before J Lo, Celia Cruz, right? Before
I mean, the
Mark
great.
Anthony, Tito Puente, like before all, like these are the people that are like they're like making music and like on like a huge global level, you know?
Yeah. So I remember telling my uncle, I was like, I want to know who does this, like who creates this. I want to do concerts at the Garden. So fast forward, I tell my friend this. He's like, okay, let's do it. Let's start a company. I was like, what the? I was like, okay, and we did it, and we started throwing hip hop shows and parties in the city, and at simultaneously in my second semester at NYU, I went looking for the guy that does the concerts, the Salsa Festival. I got an internship at La Mega,
Which
and my
is New
first
York City's at the
radio
time
Yeah, that's a
that's
good point.
probably like top five New York City radio station.
number one.
Like
It was
like
number one
the number
Latin
one
radio.
in number one Latin radio, but like probably was up there with right like Hot 97 and
Yeah,
WBLS. I don't know what else would have been bigger at the time. Maybe Howard Stern,
Z100.
wherever Howard Stern was on, whatever
Yeah,
Howard Stern was on. Yeah, and then La Mega, like that. It was
yeah.
a top five, station in New York City at that time.
Um, so I interned there for a day, and I met the producer of that event, and I asked for a job. So I then did the concert that I always wanted to do by the time I was 20. And at the same time I had my company, and I did those salsa concerts at the Garden for a couple of years, and then I was doing hip hop events on a much smaller scale, not at the Garden, with my partner. And you know,
So you're the promotion company that sets up the events and books all the people and does all the logistics. You're the logistics people.
yeah, but on both sides. So I was doing that for Ralph Mercado and Felix Cabrera for these Garden concerts. And then on my side, me and my partner, we'd come up with an idea and execute them. We did an event called Black Lily, or no, what's it called? We did the Black Lily that was in Philly, but we brought it to New York, and it was called the Rebirth at Rebar, and it was all female MCs, and dudes could get on at the end. I mean, I did events where I gave away free fried chicken wings. Like, I've done it. I've tried everything to get people in a room, and some of them work and some of them don't. Some of these events were great. Some of them were, just me with a lot of fried chicken wings at the end of the night.
So we're hearing the chicken wings not a
One of
win.
one of the times the chicken wings did not work. She might have pulled it off once and then tried it a second time
Yo,
to run
we
it
were
back.
sure.
And that second
I
time
will
was
tell
not.
you something. You couldn't tell me and my man Damien that we weren't gonna have that room packed with people to come
Yo, chicken
see
wings.
hip
We love
hop
chicken
artists.
wings.
We were like, yo,
Who
let's
don't love
go
chicken?
fried
Who
chicken.
doesn't love free chicken wings?
I know, like as a concept, it sounds really fire. Like I want the free chicken wings.
Nobody was gluten free or vegan those days.
You bring it up, I'm immediately like, where are the free chicken wings right now?
Yeah, kind of.
Right this second.
Son, people were not buying it, you know, and that was one of
It
those
was not
lessons
fucking
where
with
it's
you.
like you can't kind of. That was I don't know what the fuck we were thinking. I don't know how that just popped into my head. I haven't thought about that in like 18 years. But, you know, looking back, that's one of those moments that we were like struggling to get people into a room and we were like, free food. Like, no, like there's no rhyme,
Yeah.
there's no reason. Like, it's not
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a culinary experience.
It's not organic, like people would
At
say
all.
nowadays.
You know, it was so forced and
Yeah, yeah.
ridiculous. But,
Right.
you know, there are
However,
other things.
You live and you learn without that experience. You don't like. I constantly tell people that like there's really not a lot like that's great about winning outside of winning itself, right? Like everybody feels good about a win, but there's not really much else that comes with the win that's of value and of use to you. It's when you take the losses in life that you take, like you learn, you become better, you grow, you improve. Like without the losses, there's, you know, like just a fucking typical, you know, like nobody's gonna be entertained by a movie that's all win. Like, so he started out winning and then he won in the middle and then he won in the end. Isn't this great? It's like there's gotta be some like adversity, there's gotta be some struggle, or like people aren't entertained, you know? There's boxers that I used to like love that I don't love because they couldn't take a loss. And like one loss turned them into like glass champions. And like they were like easily defeated after that. And it was just like, well, you weren't the champion I thought you were. You were not a champion at all. It doesn't matter that you had the belt. You weren't made of what a champion is made of. A champion is gonna face adversity, lose, and then come back and win bigger. You know what I mean?
Facts.
Like
the job
the guy that just wins the whole time, and then once he loses, doesn't stop losing because like he's in his head about losing once, is like, you're not a champion. You suck. You're trash. Like you're horrible. Like what? Like you know?
You're stronger. I got fired from that job that I did for the production at the Garden. And I remember crying, walking out of that office and really being like, I just did what I wanted to do since I was 12. I was here and I got fucking fired, B. Like I felt like such a loser. And even though I got fired because I was standing up for myself, basically. And it was a different environment culturally that I was working in. When you're working with like this Latino community and tropical music, it's just, that was a different ballgame.
In what sense?
But I was told,
like, in what sense is that a different ballgame?
You know, people have asked me like what it's like to be a woman in hip hop and all this shit. You know what it's like? I'm always like, people are Queen, Earth, Queen Miss B, like kind. It's like I don't have any. I could
kind and respectful.
Hi. I could count on one hand and not use these two fingers of times I remember where I was like, I might have to call all my brothers right now. How could you say that? But in the Latin music industry,
you felt disrespected at every corner, huh?
Man, I mean, and it made it double. It made it worse because, you know, I'm at NYU. I have my own company. And it was the manner in which I was spoken to. Like, my boss would stare at my breasts and ask me for coffee. And he did it not because he couldn't help himself. He was purposely trying to make me feel uncomfortable. When I was offered things and I said no and just was like, I just want to work here. This is my position. You know, he hired another green-eyed, light-skinned Latina girl that obliged, you know, things that he was offering. And she got some better positions at like certain gigs. You know, like we have a show with 13 artists. I have one artist that I'm in charge of. She gets all the work. And that might sound whack, but to me, I'm like, give me all the work. I want to do all the work. I want to meet all the people. I want to do all the things.
One of that work.
You know? So but after that, it's like you realize that like people say it all the time and it like flies out of your mouth. But when one door closes, another one opens. And it's so true. And it's like looking at my 20-year-old self, I would be like, you know what, you handled that really well. You know, I think I did the best that I could. I have no regrets. And I learned a lot, you know. I learned how to handle myself in the reality of the world and how to be able to face discomfort in situations where you have to stand up for yourself and be graceful, but at the same time be poised and strong and stand for what you believe in.
Right. That's really like, that's an interesting answer. That is definitely valid.
I mean, listen, I'm not surprised, right? Like the Latin industry is just right. Like it is what it is, right? Like I can't speak to it, right? Because whether or not I never I've never worked in that industry, so I can't like, right, say, but I can assume, and like I'm pretty sure my assumptions are going to be wrong. You know what I mean? Like I'm growing up around these people. I know what they're capable of. God damn it!
Right.
Like
You know, in at that time, there were very few women that I was
and back then there's
encountering
no
in power positions. Like I was
and
talking
back
to a
then
lot
you're
of
not being empowered to speak up for yourself,
no, not at
and
all.
like it
The
was the
woman,
era of the disrespect and the uh just the
it's
disrespect.
just different. The woman that was in charge, it was a small office operation. It was three of us, and Joanna, she was a lawyer and like ran the company, and I assisted basically. And when she fired me, she was like, Michelle, you know, you have to learn how to humble yourself. And she said, I know that this is a different environment, but if you want to go further in this place, you're going to have to do X, Y, and Z. And to be told that, it's like, just my job, what I do, my value isn't good enough. I have to kind of like mold myself into something that's so outside the realm of what I find to be acceptable. I'm not going to do it. And that's a scary proposition to kind of stick to at 20 years old when you think like, oh my God, I made it. I'm here. And then I went back to like doing, you know, little bars somewhere else, but I had my dignity and I was happy and I learned that lesson, you know?
Right.